Casual Magic has been sponsored by Quiver, maker of the Quiver and Bolt deck cases and other fine deck holding accessories. Use the code CASUAL on their website for 10% off your order. We're also sponsored by Architect, the premier site for hosting your decks on the internet. I love them and they love me, and it seems like a good reason for you to use them. You can also support Casual Magic directly by going to our Patreon at patreon.com/ShivamB. And now, on with the show. Hello and welcome to Casual Magic, the show where we talk about the fun side of Magic together. My name is Shivam, Bhatt, and Casual Magic is brought to you by Architect and Quiver and by my patrons at patreon.com/ShivamB. And really, honestly, it's just brought to you by the fact that I keep putting these out every week. I have a problem, and the only solution is to talk into a box for an hour. So today I have a very exciting guest that was brought to you by Tappy Toe Claws herself. She said, you need to talk to these people during Bloomburrow time. And I was like, you know what? As an interview podcast, the only thing I need in my life is people to interview. So I am here for that. And so I've brought on Jackal Costuming, the duo Matt and Jin, who sit and make some of the coolest costumes. Like, seriously, they've made costumes for all of the people that you like watching costumes, and also the 12-foot tall Johnny that just happens to wander around all over the place, which is like literally the sickest thing I've ever seen. So I'm very, very excited and super stoked to have you guys on today. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, this is going to be interesting because I think the only other time I've had a duo on is with Megan and Maria, because you can't have Megan or Maria, they come as a package deal, and right. Really, frankly, they're great, so it's fine. But this is going to be interesting, so the sound is going to do what it does. But I'm super excited. How stoked are you guys when Bloomburrow was announced and when we've started seeing things?
You can start with that.
I think the first thing I remember from the Bloomburrow previews was the owl, and I freaking love owls. So I'm like, yes, this is my set. Let's do it.
I think for me it was more the it's about time. I was very surprised it hadn't happened before. It's just like the natural wheelhouse and progression of a lot of the fantasy stuff that we start with as kids, i.e. as it's known within the furry fandom. Robin Hood is the gateway to the the furries that really started the whole movement.
Exactly. I mean, between the 1950s through 70s Disney movies of Robin Hood, and then the Jungle Book and all those sort of things, and Disney Afternoon with Tailspin and DuckTales and all these other things, and Redwall novels, Mrs. Frisbee and the Rats of Nim. People say Watership Down. You guys are all wrong. Stop being mean. Watership Down is not. Watership Down is not okay.
I was traumatized by that as a child.
Everybody was. Everybody was.
Bunnies, and I'm like,
oh no, this is like Bunny Slaughterhouse 5. What? No, but freaking Fievel Goes West. All these. There's this whole I guess Felix the Cat, but that's weirder. But there's this whole unified notion of fantasy with anthropomorphic animals forever, time immemorial. The Tale of Despero, all these other weirdo just things, and it's just Magic feels why. I mean, we had Jedediah O'Johnnon in freaking 1994, right? 93,
right.
Maybe you would have thought that this would have happened. I don't know. It feels to me like if you scratch the surface of Magic, you will find that there's a gigantic furry community of people playing Magic. And it's just when everyone's oh, there are no trans people playing Magic. I'm like, have you been to a CDH table? That's
oh my goodness gracious.
4 out of 4 players there are going to be trans. One of them might not know it yet, but
yeah, egg. Can I offer you an egg? I have run draft events. I've run commander events at Anthrocon here in Pittsburgh.
Do me a favor and stop tapping the table.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize I was doing that. Yeah, I've run events at Anthrocon. The game site for that has gotten huge. There are more than a few Telegram channels for furries that play Magic.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, I know for a fact that there are furries who made Magic, let alone play Magic. They're not going to tell on themselves, and that's their prerogative. I am not here to blow anybody's spot, as they were. But it's more like the furry community is so gamer friendly and has been since I knew what furries were, right? Like I remember Furcadia a million years ago being like the first real MMO. Wow. With like all the furry stuff. Like at my local store when I started playing Magic again, when I came back to Magic, one of the dudes who used to come to my store was a guy named Dr. Cat, who is the guy who created Furcadia and like very well known in old timey 80s furry communities or whatever. And I was just like, oh yeah. And he was like, yeah, I run like the largest MMO in the world, full of just people who think they're people who want to be animals or stuff. And it's weird because like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to bring you guys on here to listen to me lecture. That's obviously not the point.
No, it's a good conversation.
Yeah, but it's also like the furry community has been the butt of jokes for the nerd community for the longest time. Like I remember there was a flowchart when in like the 90s or something where it's like,
I know which one you're talking about.
Trek fan fiction, like furry Trek fan fiction or something like that. I'm like, yeah, but it's always at the bottom, and I'm like, why though? They're just. We're all into this for escapism, right? Like I played D&D because I didn't want to be the only brown kid in the world. I wanted to feel like I could be strong and muscular, like all the white people on the covers of the fantasy novel. And like, all of us are here because for some reason or another, we want to find a world where we can be happy, where we can explore ourselves, where we can be who we are. And furries just chose a different direction than like D&D nerds, but then there's so much crossover, so you can't even really say that. But it's more like when people think of furries, they think of like the dudes who tattoo themselves to look like lions or whatever, and that's just not a fair comparison, right? Like,
yeah, everyone goes for the sensationalism and what is the most off the beaten path. It happens. Me being I grew up very athletic, into a lot of sports, and statistics, the whole 9 yards, and and they're sports fans. I'll wear a Steelers jersey the game, but then you see it some of the person at the Raiders game. There's always like a super fan for like every team, and you go, is that really what you do on the weekends? And they're like, yeah. And
I dress up in a costume and I come to the game. It's what I do.
Yeah,
it's great. Yeah,
furries for sports.
And look, I live in the Bay Area. I know the guys who dress up like Vikings and go to the Raiders games. So like, I've definitely been there and I've rolled with them. They party real hard. But yeah, that's exactly it. It's just like I here in San Jose where I'm from, there's a huge fur con that happens every year. I don't remember what it is, but it's like anime. It's like FanimeCon sized. It's gigantic.
It's Califur or Further Confusion.
Oh, well, I've definitely been to Further Confusion, but let's see. I'm gonna look it up right now.
Yeah, now I'm thinking which one it could be.
Further Confusion.
Rainforest?
Yeah, it's Further Confusion. FurCon.
Okay, it was Further Confusion. Okay.
Yeah. It's huge and it's awesome because you walk around downtown San Jose and there's people who are dressed like bears or tigers or panthers and just like fursuits are incredible. Fursuits are absolutely incredible. And I know a bunch of people who have like, first off, there are so many furries I know who are just like, oh yeah, I just like to have my fursona drawn and there's a picture and whatever. I call myself Rat online. It's fine, whatever, NBD. And then there are people who are like, I've got a closet full of my character as full body suits in like 13 different, decorations, swords. And I'm like, the investment, first off, furries are insanely wealthy, it feels like.
Furries will throw money around at everything. The
like nobody's business.
Here, $100,000 to the charity that was there, which was Gray Muzzles for old dogs.
Yeah.
I think it was projected that the community would bring in, get ready for this, $17 million That's why Pittsburgh is very furry friendly. So if you go down there, you'll see there will be paw prints leading into restaurants. They have furry themed menus.
Oh, dude, these guys know, man. Like, furries bring money. Why wouldn't you?
And furries bring money. It's in a lot of the inside joke within the furry community is if the furries ever disappeared, our IT infrastructure collapsed.
Oh my God. I'm born and raised in Silicon Valley, and I've worked in tech for large chunks of my life. And if the furries disappeared tomorrow, the entire internet would fall apart immediately. Every second sysadmin is somewhere out there with a fursona, and it is just fact. It is just the truth. They're going if furries decide to ruin your life, you will never be online ever again. Ever.
Yeah. Ever. Yeah. There's furry lawyers, furry doctors, furry. I mean,
it's pilots.
Yeah. That's the one that always gets me. Pilots. There's a lot of furry pilots.
There really are. It's wild. I mean, but it's just an expression of one of the things I've noticed. And again, we will talk about magic, I do promise.
Sure. We'll get there.
One of the things, goodness, I went hiking last week and the dust is still in my throat. But one of the things I have noticed, and this might be heavier than I was expecting, but is that a lot of people who I know who are trans or who've come out as trans or who've done that started as cis folk who moved into the furry community as a way to explore and find different identities and different ways of, representing themselves, and then moved from there into realizing, hey, if I can be a mouse, why can't I change my gender or my persona in real life as well? And they're significantly happier for it. Their lives are more fulfilled. And it's great to see. But sometimes those transitory moments are a little strange for normies who are just like, I don't know what to do with this. And, but you know what? When I learned that, my respect for the community grew so heavily because I'm like, this is a safe space for you to explore who you are, who you want to be. And if you don't, you can back out. And if you do, you can keep going. But it lets you, with people who are trustable, and I mean, most part, there's always going to be weird. Like I've seen weird Nazi furs. That is some weird stuff. When you see you in a fox uniform, and I'm like, come on, bro. There's cosplay and there's crazy.
We know that one.
Yeah, but just knowing that there's a safe space for people to explore themselves and find where they are and who they are in society is wonderful to me. I think that's so commendable, and that's why when you go to fur cons, they're just the happiest places because people are just excited to see and be who they want to be. I love that.
It's fantastic when a lot of conventions used to do parades of the fursuits, and Anthrocon still does theirs. A lot of them started moving towards showcases, and Anthrocon also does a block party where literally they will shut down about a block's worth, and the furries come out and mingle with the community, and people come and ask questions, get involved, and it's like,
that's awesome.
Can you tell me about your character? Can you tell me how you made this? And I'm so thankful for that, because I'll take it back to an odd story that really kind of was the first time I got exposed at work as a furry. Did you ever hear of the chlorine bomb incident in Chicago?
What?
No. All right, buckle up. I can't remember what year. Was it 2017? If you Google chlorine bomb MFF,
I think it was 2014.
2014. It might have been. Yeah, it might have been.
I try not to have Google searches that say chlorine bomb.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. I was out in one of the first suits we made were Pokemon suits, and I had a Lucario suit. And I come back upstairs, and I get off the elevator. Yeah, and I go, "What? Why do I smell a swimming pool? I mean, I got my head on, and all I smell is chlorine."
Oh no!
I go, okay, that's a little weird. I'm like, why is there a pool up on I don't know, the 18th floor or whatever?
But there isn't. The hotel did not have a pool.
I get into the room, and no sooner than I desuit, all the alarms go off. So what happened? And I go to hang my suit outside on the balcony to dry out because it's December in Chicago and it's going to be fine. I look down and there's ambulances, fire trucks, and they're like, everybody out of the hotel. Someone in one of the staircases let off a powdered chlorine.
It was a jar.
Yeah,
they broke.
Okay, it was a jar.
They deliberately broke a jar of chlorine powder.
Yeah, so the Great Furry Migration.
Yeah.
I swear, the Great Furry Migration of that night is everyone's out in the streets, and they're like, you don't have time to change. People in suits, people in not suits, people that were at room parties, etc. Use your imagination. And
family show.
Yeah. And everyone's outside, and they wouldn't let anybody back in the hotel. So we ended up going from hotel to hotel, and I think it was the Courtyard or what it said, hey, you're all stranded. We're going to open a ballroom. You can all hang out here until everything is taken care of. And it was hours and hours.
Yeah. There was a cat show. The cat show opened up so that people could go in there.
Yeah. So I got back. And everyone's like, hey, how was everything, on your trip? I'm going, it was fine. It was fine. And my one friend goes, so, you were in Chicago, weren't you? I'm like, yeah. I heard about a chlorine bomb at a convention. Yeah. And she looks at me and I kind of do the eyes side to side. She's like, you were there, weren't you? I'm like, yeah. But she's actually one of my biggest allies, when the company goes, oh, that's so great. I go down to the convention. I'm like, wow, you're gonna like string me along like this?
Yeah, like maybe we could have started with that part.
Information would have been helpful 10 minutes ago. But yeah, absolutely wild.
It is trippy. And the thing is, to drag it back to Magic, it's again like when you've got this need for escapism, like we all do, and like Vorthos and stuff find themselves in the story and delve in and want to be, lose themselves in this world. That's what having rich worlds lets you do, right? Like a rich world building in games and stuff gives you a place where you can be powerful, where you can be cool, be whoever you want to be. And like, it seems like it would have been such a natural fit so long ago. Like we've had animalistic characters, friggin' a Johnny.
Yeah.
He's literally one of the first planeswalkers.
Miri,
Jedit Ojonin, Miri, all of the people. It's just like, dudes, what's going on? And it's wild because there was Jedit Ojonin is my favorite character in Magic, right? And there was a new Jedit that was made because I got Ethan Fleischer to make a new Jedit, and he put it in Dominaria, and they got a furry artist named Cariad.
Yeah.
We know who that is.
She's from like the Netherlands, and she drew this incredible Jedit pirate hanging off this boat, and I was like, oh man, I'm going to try to buy an original painting. It's going to be awesome. Jedit's my favorite character. Turns out, when you're a very famous furry artist who does a Magic card for the first time, I, normie, not very rich guy, is not going to be able to get that original painting because it's very now insanely expensive. Because it turns out all the furries have been waiting a long time.
Funny side note, when that came out, I looked at Jin and like, we could make this. and we never did. I think we just got involved with other projects, but I looked at it because actually one of our absolute very best, dearest, closest friends is a tiger. And I looked at it and going,
look, if you ever need somebody to wear a Jedit Ojonin costume, I am right here.
We'll see what happens after. Oh, gotcha.
Oh, I didn't want you to stop talking. I was just saying, wait a second, because I want to show you something really cool.
Oh, okay.
Because I don't really have a lot of chances or reasons to show this off. Did you ever see this that I have?
You just posted about this recently, didn't you? Like a week or two ago?
Well, maybe like after Vegas. This is the original playtest card of Jedit Ojonin in all of her beauty, sitting there on this weird chair, looking like hot on like a playing card that I got from a dude who bought it off of the guy who created the original Legend set. And so I'm like, look, of course, the first furry in Magic is also going to be a trans woman. Why not? Let's go. But that being notwithstanding, I don't know. It was in conversation. It showed up, and I was like, I'm going to show off a thing. Anyways, what I'm trying to say though is like, Bloomborough has been a long time coming. Like, there's been a lot of built up passion. It's funny when they announced it. There was like, I knew my WotC friends were like, this is either going to be the biggest thing we ever do, or like tank like a goddamn rock, right? But the second they announced it, suddenly the entirety of Twitter just exploded. And everybody's like, oh my God, Redwall is back, or whatever, Like, I personally am a Redwall stan for life, so I'm super stoked and excited to be here. And this rules. I'm so excited. And I was like, I cannot wait to see the costumes people come up with.
I'm very excited to see what people are going to do. We have spoken to, already, a few people going, can you help us? Can you give us guidance, pointers, whatever? And, as where we are, I'd say in the community at this point, we're more than happy to, say, here's where you start, here's, the things that are involved in it, the things you need to know, the things you don't, you do want to do, you don't want to do. So it's, something we feel really passionate about, just because, we're very much at the confluence of the two fandoms of cosplay and furry.
Yes.
And for us, it allows us to do things that, we wouldn't expect to do. Look, if you would have told me, I turned 52 a week from today, and if you would have told me, 30 years ago, hey, in 30 years, you're going to be, working on a giant angry badger to go stomp around Las Vegas and probably, get your brains out, I'd be like,
are you high?
What? You can't, yeah, exactly.
Have I been taking the good drugs?
Yes. I wouldn't have even contemplated the idea. But
also,
here we
you're
are.
going to die, dude. Vegas is, in a fursuit is like.
I've done a Johnny there.
A Johnny, if the badger works out the way we want it to, it will be nicer to wear than a Johnny.
Yeah. I wear an ice vest. I have ice sleeves. I mean, they're neoprene sleeves with packs that go in the arms.
That's so cool. Okay.
Uh-oh.
I have done a great disservice to the listeners right now in that I have not actually talked to you about you yet. And we are like half an hour into the show, and I'm like, oh man, I need to ask you about like costuming and everything. So I'm going to back up like 300 steps.
Sure.
How did you? Well, you know what? I don't care how you found magic. That's not the point. I usually care, but I'm really more interested. Like, how did you get into costuming? How did? Because I realize it's hard for the audience to understand, but in an audio medium. But you guys don't get it. The costumes these two put together are insane, absolutely insane. They're unbelievable. Didn't you also do like a costume for Cass as well?
Yes. The Rouse Eric.
Yeah, you did Rouse Eric, the hand thing too. It's so sick.
We made all that. That's all the gear is 3D printed, and then the tabard and everything else in the sash is all sewn by Jen.
That's insane. So okay, how did you do this? Why do you make costumes?
So my previous relationship dragged me to.
And see, I told you in the pregame I wasn't going to ask about your previous relationship.
We're gonna get there.
I got dragged to Wizard World in Chicago in 95?
Yeah.
And I wanted, I saw people who were hyped to go and costume there because I was a nerd on the internet already. And he would not let me costume. And then we went there, and there were so many people, not like now, where now there's hundreds of people that go in costume, but there was a good amount of people, and I was really jealous. Even though back then the costumes were not great.
No, they were.
We had to
the heart was
improvise
in the right place,
a lot of things, but once I was out of that relationship, and we were together, and we went to Anime Next
in New Jersey.
Yeah. And we did Final Fantasy VII Advent Children costumes.
I'll get into my part of the story.
I'm just imagining Matt with hair right now, and I'm like,
Yeah, right. And not just hair, but like really long hair.
Sephiroth. It's Sephiroth.
Oh, for Christ's sake! Of course you were.
And I mean, it was a good time. The costumes, though, they're like, again, this is back before we had all of the materials that we have now and everything that's available. So, like, we really were kind of like, all of our props were made of wood because I made them.
Yeah, the 6-foot Masamune. Yeah, yes. it's all wood. We still have it.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, I think your Masamune's upstairs.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that just be inordinately heavy?
It was made out of basswood, which is just a little heavier than balsa. So not terrible.
Sure.
But like, so we did all that. The pauldrons for Sephiroth were made out of like styrene.
I know. I was trying to make them out of styrene, that like literal thin styrene sheets. Yeah. So it's going to look like, square, like Lara Croft, Tomb Raider polygons. And then I used the fabric ones that they provided.
Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, it was really
rudimentary.
Yeah. And we had friends that were there who did cosplays, and their cosplays were also like just like literal duct tape and bubblegum kind of deals.
That's what my cosplays were like.
But it was fun. And then like it wasn't too long after that where I started talking to Matt about animal costumes. And it was like, because I didn't know.
Are you a furry?
I was, but I didn't know if he was.
I got dragged in.
Yeah, so I kind of dragged him in. And he was cool with that. And then we made the Pokemon. So we did, my Umbreon was the first full costume, fursuit that I made. And then we made his Lucario, which was infinitely more technical. But, it still worked out pretty good. And then we just continued on downhill from there.
Yeah, well, it's funny because for me, when I was young, I always wanted to do the weird costumes for Halloween at elementary school. So there was one year I literally went as a baseball umpire, and as a 7-year-old. I know. Yeah, I know. I was huge into baseball. I was a huge baseball freak. And all the other kids just mercilessly ripped me apart. So I remember the next year my mother was helping me make a wizard costume, and at that point all the bullying and whatnot came back, and I said, no, I can't do this. I can't wear the beard. I faked being sick. I didn't go, and for a long time, I despised Halloween. I couldn't stand it. I didn't care. I wanted nothing to do with it.
I'm very sick for you.
You didn't know that?
No.
Oh, gee. Oh,
oh, I hate
reliving trauma with Matt and Jen.
I have a lot of trauma and hatred for Halloween as well, just as, everybody else gets to be ninjas and clowns and cool things. I have to go as the token Indian guy. And I'm like, what the hell is this garbage?
Right.
I hated Halloween and frankly the idea of cosplay for a very long time, and it took like Olivia and Tappy to untrain
I absolutely get it. Yeah, so Jin said, "Oh, let's go to this convention," and I'm going, Sephiroth looks cool. Meanwhile, I actually didn't play much Final Fantasy, so I'm getting in the costume the first time. A long black leather jacket, and I've never been, I'd say, super ostentatious. So I've got, the waistband with the two crisscross things. I'm going, oh my God, my chest is, half out. And I'm going, I can't do this. I can't do this. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this. And, I've got the long hair and everything. I mean, and we go outside.
Sephiroth is a lot.
Yeah. And I'm going, this is the worst mistake of my life. No sooner than we cross the street, this group of like three girls completely lose their cool. Like, oh my God, it's I'm like, wait. And they run up to me and they're like, do you know how to do the Soulja Boy dance? I'm like, absolutely not. There is still a video on YouTube of me trying to do the Soulja Boy dance as Sephiroth.
This is true. It is.
It's out there. You can find it.
This is why I don't go to anime cons anymore.
Yeah, the internet is forever. And I'm sitting there for the first I'm like, and then the one point where I could actually don't you dare.
No, don't do it.
Figure out that part. And I at that point I go, well, in for a penny, in for a pound. So let's just ride with it. And then when Jin made the Umbreon, I'm like, oh, I want in on this. And then it just took off from there. And I said, wait a minute, there are people that make characters, and so at that point we chose our first personas. To which I think your first one was the Ocelot, right?
Yes.
And so I'm looking around going, well, what's good for me? And I start looking up, animal traits, and I'm like, what is something that's like mischievous, playful, but social? And said ferrets. I just went,
ferrets.
Oh, there it is. There it is. And yeah, from there on in, we started with that, and then we got into, all right, what other costumes can we make? And the first magic costume that we did was the original Jace. And we took that down to Dragon Con, and it blew up.
I do have it.
It
was 2008.
2008. Yeah.
That's a dawn of the internet, man. And I've been online since 1989, so I don't want to drag someone back out into but there was a very famous cosplayer within the Magic community that I went to a show in Pittsburgh, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm like the only person here except for this cosplayer. And she was the most gracious, helpful, and supportive. We do not give Spranks nearly enough credit for what she did for what she did for Magic, for fandom, for the community, for creating like Christine Sprankle literally blazed the trail that allowed non-pro players to be a part of Magic in a grand way. We would not have Magic Cons. We would not have Olivia Gobert-Hicks. We wouldn't have Tappy Toe Club. We wouldn't have any of the whole Vorthos scene of people coming to just be fans of Magic, to be people who want to dress up or get sketches or do any of this stuff. None of this stuff would happen if she hadn't showed up at like Magic, like in like Vegas or in like things, dress up like Avacyn or whatever it is, Elspeth.
Without her, and we are not here.
Yeah, literally, she's like, and she was doing it by herself when there was nobody there, and when it's just like, nobody's paying her to be there. Nobody's talking about it. She's just showing up to a Magic Con dressed up like literal picture perfect Elspeth. And you're like, we can do that? It's amazing.
That show, she actually let me hang out with her at her table because I didn't know anybody. I was really new to the community, and I get a little emotional when I think about this. At the end of the weekend, she gave me one of her Stoneforge Mystic promos. It still sits sleeved. I will never sell it. I will never give it to anybody, until I shuffle off this mortal coil. And I always look at that and go, I remember where I came from and who helped me get there.
Like, communities have to start somewhere. Someone has to be the first person, and somebody else has to come and find them. And if we can't, it's like being that first person's hard, but being that second person takes a lot of bravery too, because you have to be able to go there and say, like, look, this is weird, but I also like the thing you like. Can we maybe hang out? And that is one of the most insanely difficult things a person can do. But from that, you get everybody. And that's when we get a whole scene. And that's one of the things, like when I go to Magic Cons and Magic Fest and Magic whatever's, people come up to me and are like super nervous, and they're like, I'm terrified. I apologize. My English isn't good. I want to meet you, whatever. And I'm like, no, you don't get it. Just by standing here and making it this far to shake my hand or whatever, you have taken a bigger step than you have any idea, because you were creating a community. And now we are a community. Now we are people, right? And that's why, like, when I got into Magic again, like into the internet Magic, I was hardcore into Dragonlance, and Dragonlance died, and I needed another passion. And I was like, I played Magic as a kid. I need to come back to Magic again. And the Vorthos community brought me in and took me in because I'm a story nerd, and I love this stuff. And I got on Twitter and I became part of this core group. And meeting folks like Tappy and Olivia and stuff, they let me crash with them. They let me stay with them. They took me under their wings. They gave me a costume to wear. You know, I got to be Felden in a friggin' prof video. It's like the kind of kindness the cosplay community in Magic has shown people is unbelievable. Like, I don't think there is a nicer group than the cosplayers of Magic. Like, just inside of Magic itself, like, if you're ever in trouble, find a cosplayer and they will pull you out.
Yes,
absolutely.
But dude, the first time I saw you was walking around with the coolest goddamn Ajani I've ever seen in my life, and probably ever will see in my life. Like, I think the only costume I've seen that comes close to that, the only two costumes, is the Ashiok, which is obviously insane.
Oh,
insane!
It's so good.
Evan's Ashiok is just unbelievably one of the coolest things I've ever seen in my life. And the full body Karn. The full body Karn is sick.
I helped him de-suit one time in that, so I actually got to see the inner working engineering of it. And I was, I didn't think about it until I helped him. And look at this going, there's so much neat stuff going on in here. Like, the hands were I can't think, they were like finger grips, connected to wires to move the actual full fingers. I'm like, okay, now that makes sense. Because out of the two of us, Jin is by far the stronger engineer and designer. I actually have a spatial orientation disability. Because I also have partial dyslexia and whatnot, so shapes and sometimes do not register. And Jin will be like, well, just do it like this. And I'll do the German Shepherd. And then they'll go, no, like this. I'm like, oh, okay. And I'm just walking away going, oh, God.
Yeah, like, full body suits require this kind of insane articulation that people just don't understand. Like, to be able to walk in one of those goddamn things and not have it fall off you? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Like, what?
Yeah, and it's very humbling to hear someone from like your stature in the community to say, "Oh my God, that is one of the coolest things I've ever seen." Sometimes it actually doesn't register to us that some people are like that is like one of my favorite things, and
it looks like art walking. It looks literally like the goddamn picture came to life. I don't know how you can do that. That is inhuman. That is like mysticism to me, right? Like, this is like some weird genie magic here. So actually, I want to ask about that. Like, so if you come from a background of making fursuits and stuff, making a full body, Ajani is basically a fursuit, isn't it? It's just like,
oh yeah, absolutely,
the same principle applies. But like,
absolutely.
How do you make the mask? How do you not just choke in those things? Because if it's like 3D printed foam or whatever, and it's like blocking your face, I don't understand.
Some people are really claustrophobic about them. So, like, some people can't wear them no matter what. But, like, Johnny's face is a resin cast. So it doesn't sit directly on his face.
Yeah, there are a lot of makers who just like, okay, do you need a badger? Which we are ordering a badger. We just ordered a new lion head because we're going to make the Ajani Nakatl Pariah. We're going to make that, so I have two eyes. But the head design on that is not your typical fursuit head, and this I could gush about for hours because of what Jin did. Originally, it was a full foam enclosure. So now it's the face, and on the back, and there's like a T strapping. So one runs to the back of my head, one runs around the back, and there's a loop that Jin can pull, from behind to make it sit on my head. But the mane is now, if you
like a baseball catcher's face.
Yes, exactly like that. So when Jin did the mane, instead of doing it all on foam, think of almost like I'm going to call it a skeleton. So it's 2 pieces of foam and then ribs where all the hair is wefted over. And then Jin did this absolutely genius thing. So on the 2 pieces of foam, there's now magnets. So I literally put it on like this, and
that is so cool.
Right down the back, and I can pull it on, I can pull it off with no problem. And not only that, but it lets all the heat radiate out between all those ribs, because that's where the worst heat mitigation is your head. And then in the snout, snout, nose, muzzle, we have a CPU fan. So that blows into my face, which runs to a battery pack, which just sits on my shoulder.
That's so clever.
Yeah. And then, like I said, I've got the phase change vest. So it's liquid, it's polymer liquid, in 6 packs, like 3 and 3. Put those in the freezer, a bucket of ice. And then there's 2 slots in the front of the vest, 2 in the back. I wear that. And like I said, I've got the sleeves, and now I've got a headband it's all ice. So I do that, and I just,
so wild.
I get definitely like the polar bear shock, and I'm like, okay, this is the worst part. And Jin puts the vest on, I just go, it's all, it's just like just slamming a bunch of ice up against your body. But then I put the suit on, and then it's like, okay, no, I'm good to go.
It's funny because like people, I think sometimes think of cosplay like, oh, you just go and like sew some shirts together and you're fine. But no, cosplayers turned out to be like some of the craftiest MFers I've ever seen. Like you guys have technology like I wouldn't believe. Like every time I'm talking to Olivia or whatever, she's like, oh yeah, I'm forging a new thing for my, I'm like, you're forging your own clothing? What the hell is going? It's like 3D printing and leather, and it's like, yeah, we're gonna go hunt some boars out in the wilderness to go and make the proper. I'm like, what are you doing?
That's on brand for Liv.
Yeah, like it's no kidding. But it's just like, and I look at Tappy and I'm like, man, you got insanely long hair, and then you're putting these giant wigs on. She's like, yeah, well, I just
I never understand what vortex she gets that hair to disappear into and then come back when she's done.
She's got like Tabby 25 pounds of hair, and it is thick hair. It's like my hair. It's like who the heck? It's like Tezzeret. Tezzeret's when he goes cyberpunk and he's got the full cables.
Right.
That is what our hair is like, and yet somehow she manages to like phase it out into the ether, put it into the blind eternities, and get a wig on over it. I'm like, how do you not just cut the circulation off your head, yanking it that goddamn tightly? But it's Tappy. We allow.
Tappy
has wig magic. That's all I can say. Like if you need wig help, you go to Tappy.
Next time you talk to Tappy, ask her about meeting us at Gen Con, and you are going to get a fun story from her.
Oh man, I cannot wait to Gen Con this year. But yeah, like costumes, man, it's wild. Like, do you guys? What is the transition I was trying to make? I'm trying to figure out, like, so how often do you make costumes? Because I know that one is super elaborate. Like, what brings you to making a new one? Like, do you get tired of it, or do you get commissioned to do something brand new, or what's going on?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Some stuff is commissioned, because we're still building the business. We have to keep bringing out fresh things. But also at the same time, like obviously we bring our old costumes out all the time because we want to show how hardy they are. Like Johnny's old.
Well, it's almost a decade at this point, isn't it?
Yeah, for cosplay, close. Johnny is old and he still
looks fantastic.
New. Like
the Jace is older than that.
Yes,
the Jace is probably coming up on. It's got to be like 9-10 years old almost.
The original I've seen that one. Jace. But I mean, Jace is a pretty simple costume comparatively. Especially old Jace.
You'd think that. But you should have heard me swearing making the pants.
yeah. Jin handmade the pants. Yeah, there's like 3 leather vests that go in with that. But because our lifestyle is a little different than most. We both have disabilities.
Yeah,
and Jin is actually disabled with severe narcolepsy. So there'll be times like I'll go upstairs, get a soda, come down, and Jin will be like asleep on the sewing machine. It's like, that's not good. I deal with like I said, the spatial things, ADHD, a couple other little things and whatnot. So there's a lot of times where the adulting gets in the way. My kid now 18 and has some of the issues that dear old dad has. I'm 2 classes away from finishing my master's. So we don't crank out a lot of we don't churn a lot of stuff, and that's why a lot of our stuff is built more for longevity. Because we're like, okay, we're not gonna have time to make this and this, so if we're gonna make this, it's gonna be a tank and it's gonna be bleeping near indestructible.
I mean, to be honest, the way I look at it is kind of like commander decks. Like there's some content creators who just make 350 commander decks one a day, and then there's some who are like, you know what, I've got my 5 and those are the decks I use.
Yeah, but there are times where we see something and it's like, I gotta make it.
Yeah,
I gotta make this. I gotta making
also
the
like commander deck.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we're making hugs. Jin is finishing the chibi Windgrace from the Secret Lair.
Man.
I'm working on Charon from Hades. I've got all the coins printed and the ore. I'm working on that. So I think it's funny as we're getting older. Now we're starting to make more stuff. And like, okay, now we've got some things squared away. Now we're finding a little bit more time to go, okay, well, instead of playing some video games, we're just going to build this. So we've got a lot in the hopper right now, which is kind of unusual for us.
So when are you going to help me build my East Farthing farmer or my Satya costume?
You've got our contacts. All you got to do is say, "Gimme," and we will find a way to make it happen.
I was just looking at that stupid Satya when the Modern Horizons commander came out. I'm like, if I dye my hair slightly blue, I am like 80% of the way there already. I'm like, what the hell, man? And I talked to the artist who drew East Farthing Farmer. She's like, I swear I've never seen you before. I'm like, that's a lie. Because I showed a picture to my mom, and my mom was like, they drew a picture of you. And I'm like, but that being notwithstanding. So when you take these costumes out to shows and stuff, what is the reaction like? Like, do you guys, like, what's it feel like?
Ooh, you go first.
I mean, well, I haven't actually costumed in a while. Danitha was pretty hot though. Like everybody seemed to really like Danitha, especially like when I made Danitha's armor. It has like the stained glass panels on it for Dominaria, and I lit it all up.
Yeah, there was all lighting rigged inside the armor to have the stained glass glow.
Yeah. That was pretty cool, and I think people enjoyed that.
Yeah, I remember that.
It's always really cool when people were like, "Oh my god, this is so awesome!" But I mean, I've also had times where I've been in costume and people have zero cares to give about anything. Like my pre-spark Nissa kind of went under the radar, but I mean, like. Whatever. It is whatever.
Dude, I'm looking at your Danitha costume, by the way. That armor is so good. Holy crap.
Yeah. So that armor
that looks so good.
Too. But like some costumes hit and some don't. But it's like sometimes you just build what you want to, and if people like it, great. And if they don't, who cares? I had fun making it, so
exactly.
whatever.
I mean, that's a real key here, right?
Yeah, and it definitely, I'd say, illustrates the differences between Jin and I personality-wise, because, yeah, I'll admit, I'm definitely more the extrovert. I like getting out. I like being front-facing. Um, and, funny enough, for all the phobias and whatnot I had about costuming when I was younger, um, I like I like being an entertainer. I like being an ambassador, for something I have passion about. And yeah, I've done a little bit of voice acting here and there, but this is so much more performative for me. So I can go out there, and because a Johnny is so I am so, I'm not going to say so invested in the character personally, but it matches well with where I am at my point in life, where I want to be that mentor, that teacher, that comforting presence, that cat dad, as some people would call it. But when if some people, for me, and I would say even for you, Jin, even though you can't see my face, I can see pretty well in that thing, and I can see when someone lights up and goes, "Did you see that?" And it's not the ego boost. It's more the, I'm making their experience better.
Yes.
And I'll honestly say I can never get enough of that. That's what makes me want to do more, and want to do, a gigantic angry badger that some people are going to be like, that is a giant angry badger. I got to go hug this thing. And that's what drives me. And just, those are the reactions that I really, that I live for when I do this. So yeah, I'd say that's where I land on
it. Man, giant angry badger. That is straight up Redwall for me. That is like 100. Maybe I'm more furry than I thought I was. I love me a Redwall.
I think everybody's a little furry.
Well, that's just because I don't shave very often. But
we're just misunderstood.
You were saying like that I would be an elephant, and I think I would make a better buffalo than an elephant, honestly, because elephant.
That's your answer, and that's your first. Then that would be your persona.
Like, yeah, but I don't want to be a buffalo. I want to be a panther, man.
Whatever you want.
Yeah, but
some people go with what they feel.
Thundercats. Thundercats is the furriest goddamn thing in the world. That's what it was.
Yep.
Yeah. I was all day I've been just struggling. I'm like, what am I missing? I know I'm missing something. Yes,
Thundercats. Road Rovers was another big one.
Man, I love Thundercats.
But yeah, whatever you want to be is what the right answer is. And I wrote this big thread on it. You don't have to have just one.
No, I feel like 4.
That's weird. When I play D&D, I have one character at a time. I know you can have multiple, but that feels like cheating to me. Like, that's cheating.
So each of my characters, I feel, represents a different part of myself. So like,
but I always thought,
and then there's my chipmunk. That's just my chipmunk.
Chipmunks are cool. I was just thinking it would be super neat to have like a wise, sagely old water buffalo with the horns kind of coming down like that. And, that it's like, I
think that's pretty awesome.
It's such a cool looking, when I used to run games, I had this cool race of I had a lot of Minotaurs in my Dragonlance campaign that I ran, and I was tired of them all just looking like generic American cattle. So I had like Minotaurs and Buffalo Minotaurs, and I was like, man, bovines are rad. They look super cool.
They're fantastic, and that's why I also said, some people say, all right, this is my personality, so I want an animal that's that personality. Other people just go, dang, that animal looks awesome, I want to be that.
And then other people are just like, I'm a fox because everybody else is also a fox.
Yes. Actually, we call foxes and wolves
it's like the starter kit. Yeah,
Yep.
exactly that.
Junior starter pack. Yep.
It is exactly like my first furry, right? Like I'm look, I'm a fox. It's you know what, man? Foxes are cool. It's fine.
We know
There's
plenty of
nothing
foxes.
wrong.
We know plenty of wolves, and there's nothing wrong if you want to pick that. Stick with
Look,
it.
dude, when I was a kid, my invisible friend was always a wolf because wolves are cool. Like, there's nothing wrong with wolves.
Yeah, the wolf T-shirt or the blanket, you know.
maybe not the wolf T-shirt, but I do love wolf. In any case, man, I am so excited for furries in Magic to finally be able to get their moment with this stupid set. Like, it's so cool. It's so much fun.
It is going to hurt my wallet so
Oh my god,
bad.
I'm going to. I was like 2 days into preview season. I was like, oh, I am going bankrupt so fast. This is not going to be okay. This is going to be bad.
I am not okay.
No, dude. I think Bloomburrow's the first set in quite a while that I'm like, I want to actually crack packs.
Right? Like, I haven't felt like this since like Neon Dynasty, which was like the last set that I want. As a reformed weeb, that is my jam, you know, and like, I'm just, I don't know, man. I look at these like Mabel, the mouse chick who's the main character of Bloomburrow. I'm like, this is Redwall. This is my Redwall. This is all I want in life. And also, like, my last commander deck is Kadira, so she makes 20,000 rabbits, and so I'm like,
Yeah, I want to make all of the animal decks now.
Oh my god, there's going to be a lot. There's going to be a lot of animal decks.
The new showcase art of the rat, and I'm going, oh, geez,
oh my god, that thing looks so cool.
I'm like, this is going to be a problem. Jin's going to see this and go,
I could make a rat.
Yeah, right, exactly. Oh my god!
I my rats. My rats is my signature deck.
Have you ever had to make any like scaly or feathery costumes, like for people?
I have an owl.
And that must be a lot of feathers.
I've made a raven for a friend, but they were like they're almost like hoodies for the wings. And then one of his costumes had a ton of felt feathers.
Yeah, if you're familiar with Overwatch, I did.
Actually, mine did too.
Oh yeah, I just Snow Owl Anna.
Yeah,
I did Raven. Jeez,
Nevermore
Reaper, which has got all the Raven shoulder guards in the face, and then it's just got all feathers on the back and feathers on the shoulders, and this is funny. Absolutely the most horrifyingly uncomfortable thing I have ever worn. It makes a Johnny look like a walk in the park. I wore it, I think, twice, and I'm going, never wearing this again. It was the single worst thing I've ever worn in my life. Yeah, never more, ever.
So when you're making a costume, or do you guys like... I mean, one thing I noticed, a lot of cosplayers run into this issue of Magic cards show you like the front or the side of a character, but like you don't have the rest of it. Like, how are these belts hanging? They're just floating in space.
There's a great story about that.
Engineer, like, this is why I call myself the cosplay engineer, because a lot of that is figuring out things that should not be able to work to make it work.
Yeah, sometimes you just have to go, well, this is what I can piece together from the puzzle, and I think it looks like this. The good thing is there are some artists that now will say, hey, here's some back views, here's some additional stuff, and more of them been more open of say, hey, contact us, and I'll give you some direction. But the Innistrad Jace coat that you may have seen me wear, actually I was wearing it around the one day with Kessler. So when we did that, we had to do a composite of about 3 or 4 cards and pieces of art, and we still have the prototype, and we're going through. So in the final version, there are 4 layers of leather at one point. So it's the belt, the coat, there's a top flap, and then there's a secondary flap underneath. So we actually had to buy a heavy-duty machine to get through it. So as we're going through, and Jin's putting it together and started sewing it, and then looks at a piece of art and goes, so wait a minute. What about this flap here? I go, what are you talking about? There's no flap there. And they go, yeah, I think there is. And I'm looking at it. And I go, oh my God.
Oh no.
There is. And then I do one of these. To turn to look at Jin, which is
I want to fix it.
I want to fix it because it's not right. It's not perfect.
No.
And I can see Jin just kind of do I hate everything about this.
I hate that coat, but I also love that coat because that coat should not exist. And yet it does.
It's 10 pounds. It's either 10 or 12 pounds.
It is pretty heavy.
And
oh my God, 12 pounds of friggin' leather.
And Jin acquiesced, and we still have the prototype.
Yeah.
And we did it with the thicker leather, and we added the fourth flap. And then we ran into the art director at Gen Con and said, hey, I designed that coat. And I'm like, Jin's just going to flat out murder this person in the middle of Gen Con.
It's just like, never doesn't work this way, sir.
I have a bone to pick with you, sir.
A bone left over from all the cows you slaughtered to make that coat, right?
Exactly. It's funny because some of these artists, and I'll go back to that Reaper. Walking around in that costume, I'm going, there is no way possible someone is fighting in this thing with two shotgun hands and armor and this cloak and these dangly, stupid strips with these diamonds at the bottom. I'm going, video game design, oh, that looks cool.
Oh, yeah.
It does not, it just does not translate to real life, but somehow we make it work, and which is also the fun part of this.
Yeah, but I also like to stress to people that you don't have to make it work. If you don't have the skill or the time or
the budget,
the want to be absolutely perfect, cosplay is an art, and just like every artist is a little different and changes the design to work with their style, it's the same thing with cosplay.
Some of the most clever things and coolest looking things are something that's maybe about 10% of what the real art looks like. And they're like, I'm just going to put this spin on it and do this with it. It's just absolutely mind blowing. And that's also, that's, where everyone's style comes more into play. It's like, I want to make, a partial suit or, a human human costume that represents a Pokemon or whatever. It's whatever you want it to be, just because we happen to be just ridiculous perfectionists on some things. I'm like, that's one shade off of, the right, color. Doing it over again. Just like, why are you doing it over? Because it's not the right color. And some
He's gotten better over the years.
I have. But, some people, you know what? They like how it looks, and they don't care that it's not perfectly accurate. And that, to me, is just as valid as an expression of as to what.
All right. Well, in any case, I think it's a good time for us to bring the show to a landing, because otherwise I'm going to be asking you questions all day long, because I am fascinated by this. But thank you so much for coming on. This has been delightful, and I appreciate you indulging me for that first weird half an hour. But seriously though, your work is so cool, and every time I see it on you guys or on other people or on our friends, it never ceases to amaze me, and I'm always just thrilled to see it. So I was really happy that you were able to join me today. And if folks wanted to find you or your work or whatever, where could they go?
Basically, we're everywhere is Jackal Costuming. So Twitter, Blue Sky, Instagram. We have a TikTok. We haven't done much with it yet. Any general social media, it's just Jackal Costuming.
And you guys do commissions and stuff, right?
Yes.
This is the part where you can plug your business.
I'm
like, dude, I want to get you paid, man. Come on.
Yeah, the actual business for me is Jackal Creative Works, but that's just the formal stuff. But if you ever want to reach out to to us, you can find us basically, Jackal Costuming or Jackal Creative Works. But yeah, Jackal Costuming is the easiest way to find us.
Yeah, and it's even just going through their pictures, man, it's totally worth it. But yeah, thank you again for joining me today. And as always, my friends, you can find me at Gear Reporter Gears. You can find this podcast anywhere podcasts are sold, or at YouTube every Tuesday, thanks to my editor, Dan. You can also hear me on Shivam and Wheeler Love Magic, where me and Wheeler sit and talk about every single set in Magic for hours on end because we have problems. And apparently you guys like listening to them. And then I also do a show called The Chronicles of Dragonlance, which comes out once a month. And you can also see me on Patreon. Well, really, you can't see me, but I guess that's where you can pay me. But that being notwithstanding, remember, my friends, it's not magic without the gathering, and we'll see you next time.